Welcome to this Workpermit.com information interview. I'm Jürgen Johansson. As you know, the UK immigration system is slowly changing, and the HSMP scheme is one of the first one to be phased into the new tier system and is going to fall in under the Tier 1 category. With us here today is our very own consultant, Mr. Sanwar Ali, to answer a few questions you might have on these new changes. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ali.
Thanks for inviting me.
So what opportunities are there to come to the UK under this new tier system?
The opportunities under the tier system are in many respects similar to what currently exist. There are currently 80 routes into the UK for those who are highly skilled, for those who are work permit holders, for students, and for those who wish to come in for training purposes. Those 80 routes for entry into the UK are being replaced by the 5-tier system. Tier 1 is going to be for highly skilled migrants, including entrepreneurs, investors, and people who have completed their degrees who wish to stay on for a couple more years. Tier 2 is for skilled workers who have a job offer and where the employer applies to employ them. Tier 3 is for unskilled workers. That has actually been suspended, and nobody really knows when that's going to be introduced, if ever. Tier 4 is for students. Tier 5 is for youth mobility workers, those people who currently come under the Working Holiday Maker scheme and similar schemes. Those are the 5 tiers. It is in many respects similar to what you have now, with some subtle differences, and in some respects perhaps easier and better than what we have now, but in other respects also more difficult.
And are there any alternatives to the HSMP or Tier 1, and what are they? What are the main ones?
If you don't come under HSMP, which is being phased out, is replaced by Tier 1, then the normal alternative would probably be the work permit scheme as it is now. When Tier 2 is introduced, it will be Tier 2 rather than the work permit scheme. That's traditionally been what people have done, is if they don't come under HSMP, they would come under the work permit scheme, or Tier 2 as it's going to be called in future.
Is it also possible to consider the post-study work program?
The post-study work program is a good idea if you don't meet the requirements for Tier 1 or Tier 2. It's very useful because you can stay on for 2 years. It's better than the old scheme, International Graduate Scheme, in that you can stay on longer for 2 years rather than 1 year. During that time, hopefully, you will gain enough work experience and be then in a position to apply under Tier 1, the replacement for HSMP, or Tier 2, the replacement for the work permit scheme. So that's certainly worth considering. However, one important point you should note is that if you are under the post-study work scheme, that period does not count towards indefinite leave to remain. Most people who spend some time in the UK do eventually want to apply for indefinite leave to remain, or permanent residence, as one might call it, and that period on the post-study graduate scheme does not count towards the time needed for indefinite leave to remain.
So let's say I'm a working holiday maker and I'm already in the UK and I want to stay. So how do I come under the HSMP or Tier 1 system?
Well, one thing you can't do now is you cannot change status. You cannot change from within the UK, you cannot change from working holiday maker to HSMP or the new Tier 1. What you have to do is make an out-of-country application. So if you end your working holiday maker status, then leave the country, probably go back to your home country, then make an application for HSMP or in future Tier 1, and then once it's been approved, then you can apply for entry clearance at the relevant British Embassy or consulate. So basically it's not too difficult, but you have to remember that you can't make it while you are still in the UK. You have to, in effect, leave the country.
And let's say I managed to come under the HSMP scheme or the Tier 1. Now, how do I extend it?
Well, one of the most important things, if you want to prepare for extension applications, is making sure that you meet the maintenance requirements. The maintenance requirements are much tougher under the new tier extension system than under HSMP. You need to make absolutely certain that you have £800 in your bank account continuously for 3 months before applying for the extension application. Your bank account cannot go below £800 during any time over that 3-month period before you apply for your Tier 1 extension. So that is going to affect people, and probably some people are going to have to prepare in advance to make sure that they have that money available before they apply. In other respects, people applying for a Tier 1 extension, as long as they met the old HSMP requirements, should be overall should be okay.
So, and as of 1st of April, India will come under the new system. So, how will this change the situation for Indians who wants to come under the HSMP or the Tier 1 system?
For those who are living in India, which is predominantly going to be Indian nationals, almost all the applications made by people in India, perhaps for obvious reasons, under HSMP or the new Tier 1 are going to be from Indian nationals. The effect it's going to have is going to be that it's be more difficult, because Tier 1 is overall a bit more difficult to come under than HSMP. There is the maintenance requirements, over 3-month periods, £800. There's also the application process. The application form is quite a bit longer. They ask a lot more questions. There is much greater opportunity to put in an answer that may cause problems for you. So it is, I think, overall going to be more difficult in the application process. Also, Tier 1 applications, the initial application is always going to be made from outside the UK. So that in itself, in practice, will probably make it more difficult. Historically, applications made from abroad have been refused more often than applications that are made from within the UK. So in practice, Tier 1 applications are going to be more difficult than HSMP. So if you are someone who would normally have to apply from India for entry under a skilled migrant programme, it is probably better, if you can, to come under HSMP. HSMP is overall easier to come under than Tier 1.
Well, with these new changes to the migration system, do you think it's going to be harder to enter the UK in the future?
Yeah, I think overall it is going to be more difficult. The requirements under Tier 1 is a bit more difficult than under HSMP. The application is submitted from abroad. That in itself makes it more difficult. The English language requirements are a bit more difficult. The application process is more difficult. There's a lot more questions in the application form. You're therefore more likely to put an answer down which may lead to rejection. And for various other reasons, I think overall it is going to become a bit more difficult to come into the UK under Tier 1. It is still, feasible, but it is, not as easy as it is now.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Thank you for your time, and thank you for answering these questions.
Well, thanks for inviting me today.
And thank you for watching. I'm Jörgen Johansson, and this has been an information interview here at Workpermit.com. For any more information, please feel free to browse our website. Stay tuned, more interviews will follow.